Tibet started out as tiny village communities in the Himalayas. Over many years, the villages joined together under leaders called kings. The kings made Tibet its own kingdom called the Tibetan Empire. This was around 600 to 800 AD. Tibet grew big and strong under royal kings. They controlled lots of land in Asia, but after a while the empire got weaker as different groups wanted power. Some problems emerged that made it harder to keep such control. Feudal system power got divided up among local noble families and clans across the rugged Himalayan landscape. This made everyone more independent and less linked to the king. Trade conflicts, new merchant groups became powerful as Tibet traded with China and India, but their business interests sometimes clashed with the king's political power. Religious disputes in the 1200s, a new religion also came. This was called Buddhism. The Tibetan kings adopted Buddhism as the main religion. When Buddhism expanded, the monks gained influence over land and people's beliefs. But monks didn't always agree with kings on policy, creating tensions. Invasion threats, powerful neighbors like the Mongols and Manchurians occasionally invaded Tibet, showing the kingdom wasn't totally secure from outside attacks. Succession issues when one king passed. Sometimes the next ruler in line was too young or weak to command full kingdom-wide loyalty. This bred instability. So over time, as new social classes arose and outside pressures mounted, the once mighty Tibetan Empire gradually lost its centralized and undisputed control over all regions and peoples. That made it vulnerable to break up into semi-independent local leaderships. Starting in the 1600s, a group of religious leaders called the Dalai Lamas became very important. The Dalai Lamas had roles as both spiritual and government leaders. Tibet was now recognized as an independent country called the Gandhi Kingdom, with the Dalai Lama in charge. In 600s AD, a princess named Wen Chen had a dream about a sacred book flying through the sky. She sent a monk named Sambaf to find it, and he came back with sacred sutras. Then her son showed the texts to Tibetans. They started building temples and schools to learn from Indian and Nepali monks. Tibetans loved how Buddha taught peace and wisdom. Since Tibet is high in the Himalayan mountains, it's far from India where Buddha was born. So over time, Tibetan Buddhism merged with already existing Bon shamanism beliefs from Tibet's own traditions. They added Bon spirits and rituals to Buddhist teachings. Murals and thankas show Bon creatures like Garuds next to Buddhas. Some prayers use mantras from both religions together. Also, due to cold weather, Tibet says yak butter lamps instead of flowers on altars. They burn these offerings along with grains. Bells on monasteries ward off evil spirits in wind too. Distance, culture and climate combined Indian and Tibetan spiritual paths into a unique form today. Both traditions respected each other and found harmony that works well for Tibetans high up mountains. So when Buddhism came to Tibet, it became the main religion followed by nearly everyone. The Buddhists believed in reincarnation, which means the soul can return in a new body after death. Specifically, they believed that the soul of certain great spiritual leaders would be reborn as children. So when one Dalai Lama passed away, the monks would look for signs to find his new reincarnation. Once identified as a small boy, he would be brought to the capital city Lhasa. There he would become the leader of the Gelug school of Tibetan Buddhism. As the supreme head of state as well as the head Lama, the Dalai Lama's powers were absolute both temporally and spiritually. He owned huge lands as well as directing religious and cultural life. The people saw the Dalai Lama as their guardian deity as well as their king. In the early 1900s, Tibet was still independent with the Dalai Lama as the nominal political and spiritual leader. But China under the Qing dynasty claimed Tibet as part of its territory. When the Qing fell in 1912 after their revolution, Tibet essentially broke free as China fell into chaos. For a few decades, Tibet functioned separately as a de facto independent country. But in 1949, the Communists took over China under Mao Zedong. Mao wanted direct control over Tibet to block nationalist Chinese troops from using it as a base. In 1950, Mao sent the People's Liberation Army into eastern Tibet. Though outnumbered, Tibetan troops resisted fiercely. Tibetan troops ambushed Chinese soldiers along narrow mountain passes, cutting off supply lines. They knew the land intimately to launch surprise attacks from camouflaged positions. It took the Chinese army months of advances and setbacks to defeat stubborn resistance at strongholds like Chamdo Fortress. Tibetans inflicted casualties by hitting troops with hit-and-run raids. The courageous resistance slowed the Chinese advance and bought time, though they were defeated eventually as Beijing brought overwhelming firepower. Knowing resistance was hopeless, the Dalai Lama had no choice but to agree to what became the 17-point agreement. This made Tibet nominally part of China, though it maintained local administration. But over time, Beijing tightened control and imposed restrictions on Tibetan culture and religion. This caused unrest and protests. In 1959, when tensions peaked, the Dalai Lama escaped to India, beginning a long exile. Tibet is way up high in the Himalaya mountains. It's got the biggest plateau in the world. That means a big flat area at a high altitude. 'Cause it's so high, the air is thin there. The high mountains made it hard for invaders to conquer Tibet easily. This helped Tibet maintain independence for many years. The landscape has lots of mountains, valleys, grasslands, and rivers. The ground is made of rocky soil, so it's hard for plants to grow easily. It snows a lot in the winter on the plateau with freezing temperatures. Harsh winters limited when armies could march through mountain passes. This gave Tibet more breathing space between invasions at different times of year. Nomadic lifestyles developed because of the grasslands and seasons. Moving around helped farmers, herders adapt to the land and survive. This shaped Tibetan culture. Summers are short but can get warm. Monsoon rains happen too, but not as much as in places below the mountains. Rivers come down from the Himalayas and water the northeast part of Tibet. Rivers allowed trade to happen between different regions, but they also separated groups sometimes. This may have contributed to smaller local powers over time. Plants and animals had to adapt to the thin air and cold climate. Yaks are good beasts of burden for transporting stuff. Nomads live in tents and move around a lot, following grazing areas for their flocks. Thin air made physical activity harder. But Tibetans evolved strong bodies through generations. This benefited them when defending their homeland bravely. The nomads are always watching the land closely. They see where new grass is growing best as seasons change. When a field gets empty, they gotta move on. In summer, families take yaks, goats, and sheep up high in the mountains. The plants are lusher when it's warm. They live in yak hair tents that are easy to transport. Monsoon season is mainly in summer from June to September. Moist winds blow inland from the Indian Ocean, bringing heavy downpours. Eastern parts of Tibet get affected the most by monsoons since they're closer to where the winds originate. Western areas are more arid with less rainfall. The rains help irrigate grazing lands and grass grows lush after, providing valuable forage for yaks, goats, and antelopes. This sustains life in a land lacking many trees. As it gets chilly, the nomads slowly go down to valley plains. Winter grass is different, so they go where animals like chewing the flat lands. Snow is also lighter at lower areas. Elders pass down knowledge of grass cycles to younger folks. Certain meadows are best in rainy months, others post-hail. They walk long ways between spots, so yaks carry tents, food and babies. Sometimes nomads talk to share updates on foraging places. This sharing helps the whole community survive together in the tough terrain. Teamwork and tradition guide their hooved helpers to healthy grazing every season. Since no phones work high in the mountains, they look for each other with flags. Long poles hold bright colors that catch the eye from a distance. When spots seen, they holler or use longhorn trumpets made of shells. Nomads also blow into conch shells. The echoey sound carries far. Different tunes mean different things, like come share tea, herd moved north, storms are brewing. Even birds learn the calls so flocks don't get scared. Sometimes smoke signals send codes, like 3 puffs spring thaw begun. Snow conditions require knowledge of cloud shapes. At night, campfires form arrows pointing pathways. What are some other animals that have adapted to the high altitude and cold climate in Tibet? Golden monkeys living in pine forests up to 15,000 feet. Their fur is dense and thick. They move in big family troops for warmth. Tibetan sand fox, small but resilient. This fox has grayish-red fur to blend in with the landscape. It hunts pikas and marmots. These furry groundhog relatives, hibernate in winter, but they've learned to whistle loudly as an alarm call. The original Tibetan people came from nomadic tribes who migrated to the plateau long ago from Central Asia. They developed their own dialects and culture over time at high altitude. As trade with China and India grew under early kings, some Han Chinese and Indian groups moved to Tibet too. They brought new ideas and skills which mixed with native ways. Tibet started out with a small population compared to its big size because it's hard to live there. But communities of yak herders and villagers grew across the grasslands and hidden valleys. Later, more immigrants came when Buddhism became widespread under great leaders like Songstan Gampo. Monks speaking various languages studied together peacefully in new monasteries. Today, ethnic Tibetans still make up the majority in western China's Tibet Autonomous Region, but Han Chinese have increased due to government programs in recent decades. Tibetans also live as minorities in neighboring areas. Other groups like Hui, Sala, and Mongols have smaller communities too. Overall, Tibet's ethnic tapestry got richer over time as people of different backgrounds learned to share this amazing high mountain domain and left their marks on its evolution. Some ways the cultural exchange between groups in Tibet has influenced its evolution. Language was impacted as Tibetan incorporated words from trade partners like Chinese and Sanskrit. This expanded vocab for new concepts. Food traditions were enriched by outside ingredients entering the kitchen. Now dishes blend flavors in fun combos like momos and thukpas. Art forms advanced as monks adopted colorful poster styles passing along sutras. Wall paintings gained new techniques from visitors. Medicine wisdom progressed too by mixing Tibetan plant expertise with knowledge from South Asian and Arabic healers. This hybrid approach helps more patients. Architecture advanced from simple livestock shelters to grand monasteries as designs combined Tibetan stonework with Chinese beams. Colorful prayer flags flew high. Dance movement became more dynamic, pairing ritual Tibetan moves with acrobatic Indian flair in interesting performances for celebrations. The Potala Palace is in Lhasa, Tibet. It was the residence of the Dalai Lamas, who led Tibet as head monks and kings. Construction began in 1645 under the 5th Dalai Lama and took centuries to finish. It has over 1,000 rooms. The palace was built on Red Hill in Lhasa. This spot was chosen as it was said to be where a falcon, symbol of the Bodhisattva of compassion, landed. So it's a sacred spiritual place. It's built on a massive stone foundation called podium that elevates it and provides earthquake protection. Over 1,000 rooms are within its 13 stories. It has two main buildings, the White Palace and the Red Palace, which are connected by a sky bridge. The White Palace was the spiritual headquarters and contained shrines. The Red Palace was the living quarters of the Dalai Lama. Interior rooms feature high arched ceilings supported by solid wood beams and painted columns. Murals depict Buddhist cosmology on every wall. Outer walls are thick white concrete and brilliant gold metal roofs crowning spires shine like the sun. Intricate tiles were laid by expert artisans. Upper White Palace chapels hold important relics in sculpted alcoves. Light streams through delicate windows carved with prayer wheels, lotuses and other holy images. Red Palace living quarters show innovation with plumbing, ventilation and shrines tucked within balconies. Self-contained lockable rooms gave scholars privacy too. During the reign of later Dalai Lamas, many monks worked to continually expand and enhance it with even more golden roofs and murals showing Buddhist teachings. It became an architectural masterpiece and center of learning. 3-story-high gold Buddha statue acts as the holy centerpiece, flanked by elaborate silver and copper mandalas in the main cathedral hall. In the main big hall, where everyone learns nice things, there's a special shiny man made of gold. He's really tall, taller than 3 people. Craftsmen spent a long time covering him with lots of real gold, so he sparkles like the sun. Seeing how calm and smart he looks helps us all feel calm too when our minds feel worried. The great Dalai Lama from long ago wanted the gold man there to make everyone in the whole palace feel good and peaceful inside their hearts. During prayer times when songs are sung, he kindly watches what happens below with a gentle smile on his face. Monks do special prayers near him to fill the air with good feelings so friends don't fight or cry as much. In between him sit pretty pictures made of silver and copper in circles. Students who come learn lots of wisdom from him that makes their lives full of hope, just like how the sunshine gives hope when it comes up in the sky each morning. Even today, people smile big when they see his beautiful glow shining from far away. No wonder this place became the best school ever for learning nice things. Just being near him feels cozy and lifts our moods up high. During a Tibetan uprising in 1959, the 14th Dalai Lama had to flee to India for safety. In 2001, UNESCO added the Potala Palace to its list of World Heritage Sites for its historic and cultural significance. Today it's one of Tibet's most iconic symbols. Tibetan peoples worship and show respect in their culture. A common way Tibetans start their prayers is prostrating on the ground with palms together up by their head. They bow low and gently touch the ground with their forehead as a sign of humbling to Buddha. Spinning handheld prayer wheels while walking is believed to multiply the mantras inside. Pathways outside holy places get lined with these nice machines of good thoughts. Circular prayer flags printed with mantras get tied high everywhere. Wind carries blessings everywhere the land to bring fortune and health far as where they wave. Their colorful shapes smile down on all below. When Tibetans greet each other, they bow heads while holding each other's hand together beside their cheeks. It shows caring and peaceful greetings with no need for fancy words sometimes. Offerings presented on altars get piled with fruits, flowers, butter, lamps, and grain to nourish monks' kind works. Leftovers then give feast for birds as thanks to nature's bounty. Sacred dances tell stories of sutras with masked costumes and bells whose sounds lift spirits heavenward away from worries. Togetherness shows devotion's beauty can inspire within our souls through fun. May these simple insights offer some windows into Tibetans' respectful ways. Heartfelt gestures speak loudest across all faiths and languages wherever folk roam this world we share. Tibetans have great faith in Buddhism because its teachings promote being kind and compassionate. Buddha taught that humans should avoid harming other living things like animals if possible. In Tibet, where the landscape is harsh, people must support each other to survive. Monks work tirelessly to help communities by providing health care and education. They build schools and clinics so everyone, especially poor and sick citizens, can access support. During long winters when life is difficult, Buddhist chants and spiritual dances uplift spirits. Buddhism emphasizes finding inner happiness instead of chasing wealth and status. Even when Tibetans do not possess much materially, they seek contentment in generosity and community. They share what little they have to bring smiles to neighbors facing challenges too. The Dalai Lama also gives hope as a wise and benevolent leader. Through times of crisis far from homeland, Tibetans trust he will help guide them with his spiritual wisdom gained from lifetimes of experience. His teachings of compassion sustain culture and traditions. By appreciating each small blessing, Buddhist philosophy aids gratitude for what Tibetans do have, rather than dwell on what is lacking. Natural vistas lend inspiration that tranquility exists in togetherness through any circumstance. This communal strength helps ensure survival on the high plateau. Tibet possesses a culturally rich history due to its unique geographic isolation in the Himalayas. Situated over 3,000 meters above sea level, the region faced immense challenges that encouraged independent development. Overall, Tibet's natural barriers necessitated artistic, architectural and societal solutions chronicled in its rich multidimensional heritage. This problem-solving tradition and hybrid religiosity continue attracting global appreciation and cultural preservation efforts.